Bonjour, our luxury story today brings us to Station F in Paris to meet with a contemporary artist, a pop artist, referred to as the godson of Andy Warhol, an artist acclaimed in museums, an artist acclaimed in galleries, and recently at the Biennale de Venise, for example. Bonjour, Philipcolbert.
Bonjour, ça va?
Alors, who are you? Why are you such a celebrity?
Well, you can see my color is red. I turn red generally when I'm cooked. What am I? I also have claws, and I'm also a mortality symbol, an important mortality symbol since antiquity. I was also very popular in the Dutch still life period. I was somewhat the Marilyn Monroe of the Dutch still life. I've been forgotten for a while, but then the surrealists particularly tuned into my wavelength, such as artists such as Salvador Dali, who called me up and got me back into the mix. And then a funny chap from Scotland decided to become obsessed with me also, and yes, and that was that really.
Alors, what is it are you drawing
I am an
us?
homard.
You are a homard, a lobster.
Oui.
Aka, Mr. Lobster. Bonjour, Philipcolbert.
Bonjour.
Alors, tell us how this story of lobster came in. I think it comes from Scotland, is this correct?
Oui, yes, Écossais, oui. I was born in Scotland, I studied philosophy.
In St. Andrews?
In St. Andrews, yeah. I was very obsessed with
Congratulations.
Friedrich Nietzsche and the German 19th century. So that really was, I guess, what started me off creatively. Then, what else? I then started making wearable artworks. I was really obsessed with Diaghilev and the Ballet Russe. And then after that, I was obsessed with symbols. So I guess I would use a lot of symbols like the fried egg or Swiss cheese or the lobster. And the lobster was the one, because it was a sort of personification, like a personified symbol. I started to really use it a lot. Like I put it on my caps, on my clothing. And at that point, people started calling me Lobster Man.
And it's interesting because a mix of very usual symbols, like sometimes Coca-Cola or this kind of symbol, and sometimes more niche or more intellectual references, correct?
Absolutely. It's a sort of melting pot of pop culture. I think today, especially with the internet and everything, we live in this sort of in this complete sort of whirlpool of everything, high, low, everything all together. It's like the digital vortex of everything all at once, all the time, like constant, and especially high, low, high culture, low culture, everything. So I guess I just felt as an artist submerged in all of this stuff. So I just my artistic persona was navigating a lot of that. Also navigating my own dialogue with art history, what I was trying to say, tackling, almost battling ideas of the past, trying to push my own ideas, new ideas forward. And I guess every artist, you often start in dialogue and then you sort of break into your own story at a certain point, to the extent hopefully your own story starts to really tell its own story.
Okay, I'd like to come back to the king of ready-to-made, Mr. Marcel Duchamp, because it's also somebody that counted very much in your career.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was obsessed with Marcel Duchamp, particularly obviously the fountain.
It's funny, this is a quote of Virgil Abloh. He was obsessed with Marcel Duchamp also, he said.
Yeah, well, having studied philosophy and things, for me that symbol of the fountain was such a punk rock symbol. It was just anarchic, turning things upside down. Initially, actually, I made a sculptural dress, a wearable art piece after the fountain, a wearable fountain, and it was the same idea. I was interested at the time of taking using that symbol for wearable art to use to represent clothing as a medium of art. And so initially I was very interested in this melting pot between clothes, music, art, fashion, everything all together. And I'm still very interested in that, but I guess more laterally I was lucky to be able to really delve deep into painting and sculpture and really defining my own story in the dimension of art, which I guess I feel very lucky that I've been able to do that.
And fashion loves you because Lagerfeld knew you and he loved you. I think it was the same for Vivienne Westwood. And
yeah,
I think you also like someone that is very famous in our French country, Mr. Jean-Charles de Castelbajac.
I love Jean-Charles. He's a big influence on me. He's an amazing artist and creative person. Yeah, amazing person. Yeah, so he's a big influence on me, and you know, he also comes from the school of the philosophy of pop color, which is you know, Colbert, Leger, Castelbajac. I mean, all very important figures of the sort of positive, colorful creativity, which I really respect. And I love Colbert and Leger as well, which is very inspirational for me. Yeah, like I guess back to Duchamp. I mean, I think that the ready-made was such a big concept, and it really influenced one of my sculptures in the show, the Lobster Fountain, because the idea of becoming a personified like lobster, you know, like character / toy, was almost like this idea of the self and the freedom of the self and the freedom to reinvent the self in this sort of ready-made like way, to make almost the self into a product.
Alors, we are here at Station F. This is one of the most famous incubators for startups. We have here some of the most promising companies. What does technology means to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, technology is obviously at the forefront of art today. If you think of the you know, digital media, that's how we really communicate everything. Through Instagram, the phone, like, you know, social media, it's how everything is consumed today. And so I've worked a lot with technology from AI in my paintings, like my big old master battle scenes. You know, I use this tension of creativity against my own creativity against AI stimulation, and I try and use the framework of battle, conflict, as a way of pushing that tension.
So does it become a sort of an accelerator of your creativity?
Yeah, it's like a steroid stimulator. It doesn't necessarily. I find it like ultimately nothing replaces your own creative desire for your own narrative and storytelling, and I think that's still ultimately the forefront of an artist's work. But I think it's definitely a very powerful steroid of ideas. It's like, you know, dropping 1,000 hours of sketching in a second type thing, and I think that's really amazing, and it's very interesting conceptually. And so I've definitely experimented a lot with that, and playing a lot with video and metaverse and robotics. I made a lobster robot. It was an art making robot, like a teleprescent robot. So I've experimented quite a lot with teleprescence and art making.
Okay. Alors, speaking about lobster again and technology, can we imagine one day a lobster dress? You know, the Schiaparelli one.
Yeah, I actually made one. I did make one many years back, a lobster dress. Again, in my early days of the lobster. Yeah, I've already made like a really big lobster dress, a sequin lobster dress.
Okay, so next step will be the fashion show of lobster.
Yeah, like I just recently did an Adidas collaboration like 2 years ago, so we did full clothes and trainers and everything. And I recently did a collection with a friend of mine who has a fashion brand in Taiwan, Porter. And also with a fashion label ADV, so we did a full range of clothes and accessories and stuff.
Cool. Alors maybe a last question about what is it you're exposing at Station F, so tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm showing a series of steel sculptures, I think like 8 steel sculptures, large scale ones, many of which sort of reference my humorous take on art history and pop culture symbols, and many of the symbols that have influenced my own work or that I find conceptually interesting, whether it's Duchamp's fountain or Warhol's soup can, or, you know, bananas or sharks, or, you know, octopus. Like, I'm obsessed with the relationship of the lobster and his nemesis, the octopus, and so I use the octopus a lot.
Okay, and it's going to be visible for 2 months,
Yes.
July and August?
Yeah.
Great. And let's go back to the drawings, maybe. Tell us a little bit.
Well, I just did a self-portrait in Paris, wearing my fake Dali.
Merci beaucoup, Philipcolbert.
My pleasure.
Merci.